morning. Before we open the public meeting, is there anybody here that wants to make any kind of announcements about anything other than the public meeting? Hearing none, we will now open this public hearing. The next item on the agenda is for the board to hold a project and preliminary hearing on the proposed projects. If you're interested in speaking at the hearing, please make sure you have signed the signed-in sheet at the back of the room, which should include your name and address. After a presentation by the administration and its advisors, there will be an opportunity for the public to make comments about the projects. At the hearing, we will ask that each person limit their comments to 3 minutes, and that the topic be limited to the proposed projects under consideration. The notice of the preliminary determination hearing was published as legally required. The first preliminary determination hearing was held on July 8th, 2024. At this time, I will ask that the school attorney explain the purpose of this hearing. We will now hear from the superintendent about the process of determining and communicating the projects to the community and the need for the projects.
Thank you, President Zappenfield. At this time, I'd like to bring up the Executive Director of Operations, and he is going to highlight the projects. One of the things that we've been talking about in our community, and that is continuing to provide maintenance and resources for our schools. And that's what we're doing with this proposed budget and bond issue. So Mr. Betts, if you'll come up and kind of highlight the different offerings for us. All right.
All right, with this, one of the first areas we're looking at is our HVAC and mechanical systems, heating, air, bringing those up to speed. A lot of ours are aging, and we're trying to get those back. I don't want to say back, but maybe more upgraded and efficient when you look at those areas where we are in our buildings. So we're talking about our boilers, our pumps, and building controls for HVAC and mechanical systems. Main locations for these and our priority projects would take place at CBIS, the middle school, and the high school. Our preliminary budget estimates for the highest priority repairs and replacements total approximately $3,250,000 in this area. Building envelope and hardscape, examples of this would be our roofing areas, masonry, windows, doors, pavement, and drainage around the district, and repairing and replacing those that are needing it. We have some aging areas in our district that need attention on those as soon as we can. Our priority projects for this would take place at Creekside Elementary, the high school, the middle school, the intermediate school, and Webb Elementary. Preliminary estimates for the highest priority repairs and replacements on this section would be $9,550,000. Technology upgrades. Examples of this that we could use this money for would be our PA systems, access controls, technology infrastructure upgrades, staff technology, bus cameras, and tablets. The locations for this would be all of our schools would benefit from this, and the projects in this category would benefit every school in the district. Preliminary estimates for the highest priority repairs and replacements would total approximately $1,600,000 in technology upgrades. Playground improvements. We are looking at, and have started this in other areas, examples would be replacing and updating playgrounds to make them accessible for all of the children in our elementary schools and intermediate school. Also working with the League of Miracles, who we've started working and talking with, on a site for them at the intermediate school as well. Locations for this would be Creekside and CBIS. The preliminary estimates for the high priority repairs and replacements would total approximately $1,500,000. Bus replacement, we are looking at all kinds of buses for this. looking at diesel, propane, and electric buses to replace our fleet, our aging fleet that we have right now. We're also looking at adding a special needs bus and also 2 of the smaller activity buses. This would be in our transportation area and also serving all schools. The preliminary estimates that we have for this would be $3 million. Then if our funding allows, examples for this would be facility improvements, including flooring, ceilings, interior wall finishes, painting, and furniture. The locations for this are all of our schools would have small projects in this category to update some of the things that we have there. Estimates for this and the highest priority repairs and replacements total would be right around $599,000. That covers what we're looking at with the bond and where we'd be spending our money. Thank you.
All right, we will now hear from Megan Gibson, Municipal Advisor from Baker Tilly LLC, about how the proposed projects will be financed, as well as information about the effect on the typical property taxpayer.
Good morning. So I'm really just going to run through the same information we went through at the last hearing, and if you have any questions as we go through this, just let me know. So we want to start with slide 2 of the presentation. We have the school corporation's outstanding debt. Slide 2 has a little more detail showing your actual annual payments for each bond issue, as well as the call dates for when you can refund those on a tax-exempt basis.
will now open the public hearing. Remember, if you'd like to speak, please sign in on the sheet that is located at the front table. As I mentioned earlier, we ask that you state your name and address, limit your comments to the proposed project and financing, keep any comments to 3 minutes, and avoid being repetitive if possible. Is there a sign sheet? Is there any names on it? Okay. Well, thank you all for participating in the hearing. We appreciate your time and interest in the projects and the future of our community. Please note that this is just the first step in the legal process. The board will continue to work with the administration and its professionals to look for efficiencies to conserve tax dollars while meeting our educational needs. Mr. Young, could you summarize the project resolution?
Good morning. My name is Roger Young. I am the attorney for the Franklin Community School Corporation. Having had the project explained to us, together with the financing component, and after taking public comment, the board should be considering now 3 resolutions. Each one will be acted upon individually. The first resolution is the project resolution. This resolution simply resolves to proceed with the project as it has been outlined to you. The project resolution also estimates the cost in the neighborhood of $18,600 or less. That is the project resolution. Adoption of the resolution is required in order for the matter to move forward. So, Mr. President, you call for a motion and a vote on the project resolution.
Motion? Move to approve. Motion? A second. All those approve signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you.
All right, the next resolution is called the preliminary determination resolution. Having approved the project, the board now has to determine a way to pay for it. As you have heard from Baker Tilly, the recommended way to pay for this project is through the issuance of bonds, utilizing the services of a building corporation. The preliminary determination resolution would preliminarily determine that the board would issue bonds in an amount sufficient to fund the project, not to exceed $19,050. This includes a lease rental payment. You've had explained to you the parameters of the bonds, the maximum interest rate, the likely repayment period, and the annual debt service, as well as the impact on your tax rate. So at this time, if there are no questions, I would ask the President to call for a motion to vote on the preliminary determination resolution.
We have a motion? Second. First, second. All those approved signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed?
The last resolution involves the school recapturing money that's already been spent on the project. The school corporation may have spent funds out of its operation account in connection with the project. The last resolution is a resolution demonstrating an intent to reimburse that fund to the extent money has been spent from the fund to fund the project from the bond proceeds. So that's what that is. That resolution also can look back a number of months and recapture funds that have been spent prior to the adoption of the resolution. So with that, we ask the President to call for the motion to vote on the reimbursement resolution.
Motion to approve? Move to approve. Second? All right, all those approved signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed?
That concludes the adoption of the resolutions.
We'll officially close that part of the hearing, but before we close that, we do have a vote left on the CBIS, FCMS, and FCHS handbooks. Any comments? Dr. Wall?
are the remaining 3 handbooks of the 8 that we have for this academic year. If you will remember, the key item in these 3 handbooks is the new electronic device policy. We received that final policy from CCH&A earlier in July, and so we wanted to ensure its inclusion in these handbooks, which is why we are now on this timeline before classes start next week. There are documents with the handbooks and with the changes, the collective changes. Happy to entertain any questions. Thank you. No changes since last meeting.
Thank you. Any questions, comments before we ask for a vote? Any motions to approve? Motion, second. All those approve signify by saying aye.